My supervisor went through my wallet during a meeting and HR said, "You shouldn't leave valuables unattended." I came back from the bathroom to find my jacket moved from where I'd hung it on my chair. My wallet was sticking out of the inside pocket at an angle I never left it. I glanced around the conference room and caught my supervisor, Diane, sliding something into her notebook with this tight little smile. My stomach dropped as I grabbed my wallet and flipped it open. The cash was still there. My cards were still there, but something felt different. Like when you know someone's been in your house even though nothing obvious is missing. I sat down and tried to focus on the rest of the quarterly review, but my hands kept drifting to my pocket. After the meeting, I checked everything again. That's when I noticed my social security card was facing backward in its slot. I always kept it facing forward. Always. I told myself I was being paranoid. Diane had been my supervisor for 14 months, and sure, she was cold and controlling, but going through someone's wallet, that seemed extreme even for her. I let it go until 3 days later when I got a fraud alert on my phone. Someone had tried to open a credit card in my name using my social security number. The application was denied because the address didn't match, but my blood ran cold seeing the details. The email address used was a slight variation of my actual email. The phone number was 1 digit off from mine. Whoever did this knew me. I froze my credit immediately and started going through every account I had. Nothing else seemed compromised, but I couldn't shake the feeling that the wallet incident and this were connected. I mentioned it casually to a coworker named Jerome who sat near Diane's office. His face changed immediately. He leaned in close and whispered something that made my pulse spike. "She did the same thing to the guy who had your position before you. He thought he was going crazy until he quit." I asked what happened to him. Jerome shook his head. He couldn't prove anything. Nobody could. I started documenting everything. I bought a small camera disguised as a pen and clipped it to my jacket pocket before the next team meeting. When I stepped out to refill my coffee, I left the camera recording. What I captured made me physically sick. Diane waited exactly 30 seconds after I left before reaching into my jacket. She pulled out my wallet, photographed every card with her phone, wrote something in her notebook, and put everything back in under 2 minutes. Her face was completely calm the entire time, like she'd done this 100 times before. I had proof now. Real proof. I went straight to HR the next morning with the video pulled up on my laptop. The HR director, a woman named Gail, watched it twice without expression. When it ended, she closed my laptop and slid it back to me. "You recorded a colleague without consent. That's a policy violation." I told her that Diane had committed identity theft. Gail shrugged. "You shouldn't leave valuables unattended during meetings. That's common sense." I walked out of that office feeling like I'd entered an alternate reality, but I wasn't done. I filed a police report that afternoon and gave them the video along with the fraud alert documentation. The detective who took my statement was the first person to actually look concerned. She asked if I'd noticed anything else unusual about Diane's behavior. I told her about what Jerome said, about the previous employee who quit. Her eyebrows went up. "Give me a few days," she said. "I want to pull some records." 4 days later, she called me back into the station. What she found changed everything. Diane had been flagged in 3 separate identity theft investigations over the past 5 years, all involving former co-workers or subordinates. None of them had enough evidence to prosecute because the victims couldn't prove how she'd gotten their information. My video was the missing piece. The detective showed me a printout of credit applications, bank account openings, and loan requests, all tied to people who had worked under Diane. The pattern was identical every time. I returned to work the next day as if nothing had happened. During our morning stand-up, Diane asked about my weekend, and I said it was productive. At 2:15 p.m., 2 detectives entered the office and asked Diane to step outside. I watched as her expression changed from confusion to panic, and then to something cold. When they escorted her out in handcuffs 20 minutes later, the whole floor fell silent. Gail from HR rushed out, pale and panicked, trying to stop them, but one detective handed her a warrant, revealing that the company's personnel files were being subpoenaed as part of the investigation. Her face went white when she realized the implications of the complaints that had been ignored. The investigation revealed that Diane had stolen the identities of 11 different employees over 6 years. She'd opened credit cards, taken out personal loans, and even filed fake tax returns in their names. The total damage was over $200,000. 3 of her victims had destroyed credit scores. One had lost his house because of debt he didn't even know existed. She'd been promoted twice during the years she was doing this because her department always met its numbers. Nobody thought to question why so many employees kept leaving after working under her. The company tried to settle quietly with all the victims, but 2 of them refused and went to the press instead. Diane pleaded guilty to 12 counts of identity theft and received 4 years in federal prison. Gail was fired for failing to investigate documented complaints, and the company paid out over $3 million in settlements. Jerome texted me a photo of Diane's empty office the day they cleared it out. I saved it as a reminder that sometimes the proof you need is the proof you make yourself.